So VDM once called Reuben Abati, Dr. Reuben Abati of Arise News, a tribal bigot, and it's now I'm beginning to see it. How can Reuben Abati say that civil war has not ended just because Peter Obi is saying he will do it 4 years so that power can go back to the north, saying that the north does not trust the east, and as a result of that, they will not agree to that, and indirectly promoting Tinubu. This is gross hypocrisy. Now let's listen.
The Labour Party, Peter Obi, is reiterating his promise to serve only one term of 4 years if elected Nigeria's next president in 2027. Now, in a statement on Sunday, the former governor of Anambra State explained that his decision to serve only one term is sacrosanct and inspired by the legacy of visionary leadership of American presidents Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, and Nelson Mandela of South Africa, each of whom stayed for a term or even less in office. But we're able to prove that longevity in office is not necessarily something that guarantees success, but rather it is how impactful and purposeful the leadership. That is what matters most. Now, responding to critics of his decision to serve only one term, Obi said that they should desist from judging him by their own corrupt standards, stressing that his word is his bond.
Do you think it is possible in Nigerian politics for anybody who becomes president from any zone to promise, I will serve only one term, and people will believe that person? Because these positions are not held only by persons. They are also held by ethnic groups, geographical zones, and all of that. And all of them will come and say, no, this is our turn. And if Mr. Peter Obi becomes president of Nigeria, you think Igbos will agree with him to say, I want to do only one term? When the last time they held the number one position was since the time of Aguiyi-Ironsi.
Very interesting proposition by Mr. Peter Obi there. And then, of course, your question is very, very apt. There's always been this mutual distrust between Nigeria's ethnic groups, especially when it comes to the presidency. But like you have said, if he does come to power, it will be a different ballgame. But don't forget that your former boss, former President Goodluck Jonathan, then as president of Nigeria in 2010-2011, had proposed a single term of 6 years, having seen how the presidency is being used like a football to be kicked around the 6 geopolitical zones. He has said that, look, if we want this country to move better and for us to achieve this rotational presidency, I think one term of 6 years will be better. And so that's the context from which I'm saying this proposition by the former Labour Party presidential candidate in 2023. And he's putting his integrity at stake. And, it's like advertising. Peter Obi is pitching to the north and pitching to the rest of the country. But what I want to say is that Nigerians should critically take a look at it. They should give it a huge consideration, considering the challenges that we have right now. The Southwest itself, from which President Tinubu comes from, has enjoyed this Fourth Republic more than other component parts of the country. And I think Peter Obi was trying to direct that to other parts of Nigeria to take a critical look at it, because Obasanjo did 8 years. We've had Tinubu now completing one term, which will now make it 12 years by 2027. So if Peter Obi is able to, put his integrity more at stake and reach out to the right stakeholders, he could actually pitch this in a better position that will make it look like the Southeast can conclude that 4 years that's left for southern Nigeria, and that he stands a chance. People should hold him by his integrity. Yes, of course, he actually did well in the last presidential election, and his integrity is at stake, but this speech that he has brought is a very, very perfect speech. It aligns with what then President Goodluck Jonathan has said. And I think rational Nigerians who think politically and want the sustenance of this country should actually consider it, and they can hold the Southeast and Mr. Peter Obi to this one-term proposal. It's a very good proposal. Conclude the 4 year of the South. But of course, then you have the biggest elephant in the house, President Bola Tinubu. Can he, if given the opportunity by ADC, for example, defeat a Bola Tinubu who is an incumbent, who has all the appurtenances of power, the coercive apparatus of state, to wriggle his way into 2027? Well, it's left for us to see.
Except that nobody says ice cream in politics. Bola Tinubu is not going to give ice cream to another person because he wants to be seen as nice. That's not the arena for politics. Bye.
No, beyond the politics of zoning, we also have to look at what's realistic and what's achievable. 4 years, do you think that's enough for anybody to make a real impact in the governance of this country? Especially what we've seen with this current president, the fact that reforms take time and they're saying we're turning the tide and so forth. Generally speaking, most people believe that 4 years is not long enough to make an impact. What do you think of this?
Well, I think Nigerians should actually do away with that mentality. Yes, it may not be enough, but if, for example, Peter Obi is coming to build on the reforms already put in place by President Tinubu, all he needs to do is to also introduce other reforms in other places. There's nowhere that is stated that you need 8 years. I mean, the people who framed the Constitution knew that there was going to be a time where presidents could only spend one term. And so if the electorate feel that the presidents, the incumbents have performed, they can renew the term. And if they feel that the incumbents have not performed very well, then the people have the last card to actually kick the president out of office. So the people who put this provision in the constitution could have as well said it should just be a one term of 8 years. But they said no, let it be a renewable term. And so if you have someone who is really strong in reforms, who really wants to put the country first, I mean, take for example, former President Umar Musa Yar'Adua. He spent less than 4 years in power, about 2 years plus, and we are still talking about him today. The reforms he put in place, that, like for example, the amnesty program in Niger Delta, they are still ongoing. So we need statesmen at this moment. We've had enough of politicians who come to do 8 years, and we don't seem to have enough, including those politicians who wanted to extend their tenure from 2 terms of 4 years, like Obasanjo, where we had corporate Nigeria, for example, coming together in 2027, in 2006, 2007, wanting to extend the tenure of Obasanjo. If we want a reformist president, someone who just wants to put the country in good shape and then leave for the right leaders to come into place, I think we can do it. We can hold Peter Obi to his words, or even President Bola Tinubu, if his term is going to be renewed, hold him to some reformist agenda. It's long enough for us to just be giving people terms and compensating them because they have 2 terms or because they are from different regions. Can we try something new, for example, for the first time?
I mean, on this very same topic, we did see the Arewa Consultative Forum not really speak as hopefully as you've been speaking. They say that this move from Peter Obi is political strategy because, well, I can't speak for them, but perhaps the belief is that if he says that he only wants to do 1 term, then people in the north would be more inclined to back his presidency because there would be a rotation of power back to the north thereafter. What do you think about what the ACF had to say about this promise to only serve 1 term if he is elected come 2027?
Yeah, it's a very good pitch, and the ACF and other component parts of northern Nigeria would want to actually give it a thought. But of course, then comes the question. It's not even about Peter Obi's proposal. My greatest fear for Peter Obi is that which major political party will hand over its ticket to him. Because the greatest fear is that Peter Obi, going into ADC, for example, can he stand an Atiku Abubakar at the primaries or a Rotimi Amechi at the primaries? Because Peter Obi has not really, if you look at his political trajectory, he has never stood at any major political primary and won that primary. In 2022, it was supposed to be his major test of national baptism in a major political party, but he left the PDP. The other times, he was just as governor in 2003, and of course, you know what happened with Ngige and all of that, and he came and he got a renewable term. So 2022 was supposed to be his major test, but he left PDP, went to the Labour Party, and of course, you know what happened, and the ticket was handed over to him. Now, if a bigger political party, he wants to represent that big political party, he would have to face the bigger guys, like, for example, Rotimi Amechi or Atiku Abubakar. Can he defeat Rotimi Amechi or Atiku Abubakar in the ADC? Or is the Labour Party, as it stands right now, are they willing to give him the ticket? Because we hear that some of them are not willing to give him the ticket. So beautiful proposition, but the platform now is the major problem that I'm saying. And the North will look at it from that prism and say, look, does it stand a chance? But look at Atiku Abubakar to also pitch in a 1 term. Can he be trusted? Can the Northerners agree? Is it not easier for them to go with Bola Tinubu and be sure that in 2031 they will get it back than for them to go with Atiku Abubakar that they are not sure? And then, of course, it will affect the geopolitics of the Nigerian polity. So it's left for Nigerians to decide.
Sumna, I get your point about platform. That has to be resolved. But I'm saying that any politician that comes to you and says, I'm going to do only 1 term, that's a sign of desperation. It will not work. Just like all these gambits about serving food, carrying plates, and doing boy at parties that would be better organized by event organizers, it's also a sign of desperation. It doesn't work. It will never work. And then the second challenge, of course, is that you say the North will buy into this idea of 1 term. No, the North will not. Because the civil war in this country has never ended. I don't believe that Northerners who are already aggrieved with a Yoruba president will just shift and embrace the possibility of an Igbo president. There are contradictions in this country that have not been sorted out. We should lay the emphasis on competence, ability. If the Nigerian people are politically educated to a point where they can vote for a competent person, regardless of where he comes from, regardless of his religion, that's when this country will begin to move forward. So all this, I will do 1 term, I will serve you food, I will give you agbado. No, please, that's not going to work, in my own opinion. I don't know whether you disagree.
Well, I mean, competence, integrity, and all of that, very important for the next president of Nigeria, whether it's President Bola Tinubu as he wants to continue, or it's for someone else that will be voted, or whether Atiku Abubakar or Rotimi Amechi and all of that. Yes, you've said it, Nigeria has not really recovered from the civil war and the politics of that period and all of that. But should we continue? That's what people are saying, and that's why it's time for statesmen to actually rise up. And why is a component part of the federation still being neglected? That's also on the conversation. When we started this country, independence-wise in 1960, it was started on a tripod. democratically, the other two components of the tripod have ruled the country. So the debate will continue. Why is the third leg of the tripod being left behind? Eventually, we had a fourth tripod, which was the region that was carved out, the Midwest region that was carved out from the then old Eastern region. And the debate has been ongoing. Why not have someone from there? Well, we eventually had someone from the South, which happened to be former President Goodluck Jonathan. But then, how long can we continue to isolate one of the tripod that we started this country with in 1960? That is what statesmen, people who are thinking into the future, are saying. And that's why, if you look at politics, the geopolitics of Nigeria at the moment, the best chance that the Southeast has right now seems to be coming with someone like a Peter Obi. And then you see that if Peter Obi doesn't get it this time around, I wonder when next it could be, because he just looks like a semblance. Why not pitching for him? Look at President Bola Tinubu too. You have said it very clearly. Nobody gives you the presidency on the platter. And so Peter Obi has to do more than just offering this proposition. You will see how Tinubu supported several people, supported Atiku Abubakar, supported Nuhu Ribadu, and eventually supported Buhari before getting it. How many people has Peter Obi supported to get to the presidency than before coming? The only time he got the opportunity was in 2019 with Atiku Abubakar, but in 2022, 2023, he broke out. When people are saying that he should have supported Atiku Abubakar and it would have been an easiest ascendancy. Well, there are others who are now saying that the best way the Southeast can get to the presidency, I mean, from another thinking, is for Peter Obi to be Atiku Abubakar's vice presidential candidate, and by 2031, Atiku Abubakar will now hand over to him. That's the surest way. And I think Peter Obi and others too should consider this. Well, because no one gives you the Nigerian presidency. But Nigerians need to consider the Eastern region. That's the only pitch that I find very considerate. And of course, the issues of competence can come in there.
Okay, I get that principled position. After all, Payo Adebanjo pushed that position. But President Tinubu is saying he's the one representing the South now. If Buhari did 8 years, the South is also entitled to 8 years. And that's where the argument is. And that's why Gbajabiamila is talking to his colleagues. And they are saying that the Southwest will hold this position for another 4 years.